Hey guys, don't worry, I'm not going to talk for long. Earlier today, Lorraine Kelly, on her very creatively titled morning show that's been going for years called Lorraine, interviewed Dr. Kathleen Stock, the university lecturer who felt forced to leave her post of many years because she was accused of being transphobic. I'm going to play you the full interview, just about 8 minutes, then we could talk a bit afterwards. Just before you watch it, I'm sorry about the quality. I can't find the full interview anywhere online, so I captured it myself. I could have done better, I know, but here it is. Let's watch it together. Off we go.
Now, my next guest has been in the headlines after resigning from her job as a university professor over accusations of transphobia. Kathleen Stock's views on gender identity have seen her subjected to protests like that and even death threats, but she says everybody is entitled to free speech. And she joins me now for her first TV interview. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. What did you actually say that resulted in that sort of graffiti, death threats, all of that?
Well, I've got some views that some people think are controversial, so I think that I'm afraid feeling like a woman doesn't make you a woman as far as I'm concerned. There's a difference between trans women and women that is important when it comes to laws and policies, sport, prisons, changing rooms. So that's the area. Obviously it's controversial and these students really didn't like it.
Did you know when you said it that you were going to get this sort of reaction?
Well, I never imagined that they were going to try and actually get me at my job, but I did know right from the start that it was a very controversial area. It was quite toxic, but I did think it was important that we had this discussion.
But did you understand that people would be offended and they would be incredibly upset by that?
Yes, and I'm sorry about that, obviously I am, but I just think there's more at stake than people's feeling offended, because there's some really important issues about women and children and gay people that we've just got to talk about.
And trans people have a terrible time. They do. They really do. There's a high rate of suicide. It's horrendous. They go through and they face abuse and all of that. You've been accused of being the enemy, if you like. Are you transphobic?
No, I'm not. And actually, I think a lot of the students that wanted me to leave don't really know what I think, because I repeatedly say that trans people totally deserve protection. They should be legally protected especially. I support current law which protects them. My concern has always been moving towards this thing called self-ID, which is about feelings inside. It's not about surgery or hormones or even dress. It's about, there's now laws and there's policies in our institutions that say if you feel like a woman, then you can go wherever you want. You can have access to whatever spaces you want, and I think that causes problems for women potentially, because it means they're unisex basically, and that's what I want to talk about.
But were you able though to have that discussion? Because the thing is, it's about having the discussion. Like, you can say you don't think trans women or trans men are men. I would disagree with that. Let's have a discussion about it. Were you able to do that?
Well, not on my campus particularly. I mean, in some classes, yes.
Right.
But it's a very difficult thing to say in British universities at the moment, because a lot of students disagree violently, and they think
surely that's okay. They can disagree.
Well, of course.
They can disagree with you. But where did we get to the situation where people are we understand people are incredibly angry. We get that, but that it's gone from that to not talking about it. Like you said, people won't talk about it.
No, well, they won't, because
are they scared?
I think. Well, yes, they're frightened. They're frightened of causing offence, and they're also frightened of being called transphobic, because what's happened is the definition of transphobia has now got so broad that it involves things like saying, I think women should have their own changing rooms, or I think that males in women's sport is unfair. That's considered transphobic, so people don't want to be called transphobic, because
of course not.
It's a terrible thing to say about someone, so that shuts it down. And I think also universities, they are chasing fees right now. They're all competing for students, so they don't want to have academics saying things that offend their potential customers.
But surely this should be the case, particularly in universities, where you say your view, I disagree with you, because I do happen to think that trans women are women and trans men are men, but we should be able to talk about that without me starting to without me starting hurling insults and the same back. Otherwise, how are we all going to get in a place where we respect each other?
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, the way I've always taught is I've always said to my students, I would like you to disagree with me, and I certainly don't want you to agree with me just because I said it. And I'll give them readings that are, a range of different views, sometimes very strongly against one another. And that's what, as far as I'm concerned, what a university should be like. But I think there are some people now in universities who don't feel like that. So
you don't want to shut down debate of anything. I mean, you should be able to talk about it. Otherwise, where are we going to be? Like I say, how do we get to a place where we can agree to disagree?
Yeah.
In that sense, it's a really difficult one. Though I know even by us having this discussion that it is actually going to offend an awful lot of people because it's a difficult thing to do. But I always think you've got to air things. You know, you have to actually talk about it. There's this whole thing, isn't there, about cancel culture? But you've not really been cancelled because you walked away from your job. You did resign.
Yeah.
Why did you not stay? Because the university in the end supported you, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean,
was it just too much?
It's too much. I mean, I think you saw some of the things that were up there. There was posters all over my workplace with my name on them saying I was a transphobe, fire her. There was like a huge, for me, a huge demonstration at an open day with all these people holding banners saying quit. And, you know, it's my workplace. I've been there for 18 years. It's been like home to me, and it doesn't feel like home anymore with a small number of students, but a very loud number of students.
Also colleagues as well, it wasn't just students.
Colleagues too, again a small number, but very vocal, very insistent that I am a transphobe and I shouldn't be there. And, you know, you get to a point where you just think, this isn't for me anymore. That was my personal decision.
I can appreciate that, absolutely. But again, with the cancel thing, you know, you're talking to me, you've been in Women's Hour, you're going to, your book's been reprinted. You actually, in a way, have more of a voice now than probably you did before.
I mean, I'm going to use it because I think these issues are important. But I think we should also remember that there's a lot of academics, women academics in particular, and not even just in universities, but in all sorts of places that do not feel they can say what they think about this issue. Young women write to me and say, I feel really suffocated. I just feel I can't say the right thing and I'm scared of saying the wrong thing. So I think it's important for me to carry on talking about it on behalf of those women and men so that they can start feeling they have a voice too.
Yeah, because it's that thing, isn't it? You don't want to be walking on eggshells all the time, and especially especially when you talk about live telly in a show like this, we should be able to talk about anything. I mean, that's the thing about this show, is we absolutely do talk about anything, and so we should.
Yeah.
So we should. But we have to.
What's the alternative?
Well, exactly. Where do we go from here? How do we get to a place where there's equality, there's fairness, there's understanding for a section of society who, for far too long, have had a really, really bad time, as we've said, and you've agreed that they have.
Well, I have, and also I think I should be clear that trans people write to me and say that they don't agree with the situation either. Right. They think it's got too far. They don't agree with the campaigning groups that speak in their name. They don't want self-ID. They don't think it's right. So there's as you'd expect, trans people are a diverse set of people with their own views, and they argue with each other.
Yes, of course they do,
we should be able to do that too.
That's absolutely fine. People should be able to do that. People should be able to argue with each other. And you can't, it's this thing of just sort of lumping everybody together. Everybody's an individual and everybody's different, aren't they? They've all got their own ways of getting through life, which is all that we're trying to do. Yeah. So are you optimistic? Do you think things are going to change, or do you think that people are going to get shut down?
I don't know, to be honest. Some days I feel more positive than others. I mean, it's good that we're talking about this now, and I think people have looked at my situation and thought, hang on a minute, how has this happened in a university, which is supposed to be about exploring ideas? But on the other hand, there's still a bunch of people out there that really don't want me to have this conversation, and they are, they're influential too. So I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
Well, we've been able to have a conversation because I don't agree with everything that you're saying at all.
I know.
But that's okay.
It is okay.
Because we can talk about it. we can talk about it. And exactly, absolutely. Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry we have so little time to deal with something that's so very, very important.
Thanks for having me.
But thank you. I appreciate it, Kathleen. Thank you very much. The University of Sussex has said that they will not, this is their statement, we will not tolerate the bullying and harassment of anyone in our community. We've been very clear that what Professor Stock experienced by some in our community was unacceptable, is what they are saying. Right, after the break.
So what did you make of that? I thought it was okay. I have to say, I think Dr. Kathleen Stock comes across really quite measured and calm. And when you see those pictures of the way people were picketing the university, it's really quite incredible that you think she had to face that almost every day, and no wonder she felt compelled to leave. I did think there was some interesting issues raised. I mean, I don't think anyone should be bullied out of their job, unless they've broken the law, and they've obviously broken the law and done something really awful like a Harvey Weinstein or someone. I don't really think people should be bullied out of their jobs. I just think that's wrong. And a lot of people online have been saying, well, you know, Kathleen Stock has gone around saying, you know, they're trying to silence me, but since she's left her job, she's been doing high-profile interviews, so she's hardly been silenced, has she? And while there is some truth to that, I also think it's worth noting that all those people who campaigned to force her to leave University of Sussex, where she was a lecturer, it's kind of backfired really, because everything she was saying that those people detest, she's now getting to say it on a national platform, if not an international platform. So more people are going to hear her message, which a lot of people who on the campus protested to get her out think is highly transphobic. So I kind of think that seems like a bit of a weird thing to do. You haven't silenced her, you've given her a bigger voice to air the views that you don't like. So if you hadn't done all this and kept her at Sussex, at least there would have been a limit to the amount of people she could have influenced. But there we go. I think her big thing is the self-identification issue is the big hot topic, i.e. that, as she mentioned in the interview, that if you feel like a woman, you can say you're a woman, and that the law is going to protect you should you say it. And I appreciate that's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand. I mean, I personally don't really, I don't get it myself, because obviously I'm aware that feelings come and feelings go, and I don't really think you can run your life based on how you feel, because sometimes you may wake up and feel like not going to work, or feel like, you know, not doing the jobs you have to do, but you kind of still got to do them. But anyway, maybe that's a naive way of looking at it. I realised at this point that some of the things I said people might think are transphobic, and I was determined to have my voice heard and not cower in fear at these kind of people, but then I realised they might burn my house down, so I've muted everything I said. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.